On your radio again comes the strains of Cuddly Ken.
Hello there. And now for a word from our sponsor.
But now, to take us to the shipping forecast, we're sailing by.
Hey, ding ding, there's a seagull on the transmitter.
Well, have you? Could you? It can be done, for here's proof before your eyes. It's Jeffrey's Flea Circus at Birmingham, and nothing's too difficult for the performers.
Now the shipping forecast on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency.
Only the lonely.
Hello, I'm Johnny Diamond, and welcome to The World This Week.
We need all the protection that we can get.
Uncle. C'est magnifique. Magnifique.
I mean, how could we forget him? It's just like forgetting Herman Finkelstein or Dorian Crundlewater or something like that.
It's not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
I have in sincerity pledged myself to your service, as so many of you are pledged to mine.
I have no option but to resign from the office of Premier.
Here we go, friends. Commercial time.
You're living in the past.
The first time I really got interested in wireless was walking along the beach at Liverpool.
It's the sound of music. Listen to the sound.
I will not comply. Quit trying to take me to task, 'cause I don't want to wear a mask and take some vaccine that could maybe make me die. Ain't got no scientific evidence to back that crap up. All they do is feed us lie after lie. That's why I will not comply. Since back in March, I've had an achy, breaky heart like old Billy Ray Cyrus. Been catching a case of the blues from the news around this damn coronavirus. They keep telling me I gotta keep my chin dapper up till they can figure out a shot in me or no. Nobody's talking about exercise or eating food that's fresh, grown from the farm. That's why I will not comply. Yeah. We're trying to take me to task, 'cause I don't want to wear a mask and take some vaccine that could maybe make me die. They got no scientific evidence to back that crap up. All they do is feed us lie after lie. That's why I will not comply. Now listen, y'all. The only way to stop the violence is for us to break the silence right now. Hell yeah. So if you tend to agree and you're pissed off like me, stand your ass up and sing it out loud. Let's go. I will not comply. Yeah, man. We're trying to take me to task, 'cause I don't want to wear a mask and take some vaccine that could maybe make me die. They got no scientific evidence to back that crap up. All they do is feed us lie after lie. That's why I will not comply. Go ahead, Joe. I'm here to tell you, Facebook, I will not comply. No. Yeah.
one original song. Settles for another.
That's right. That's a gospel according to Blind Joe right there. I hope you like that one. Let's call that one.
And now, the man the BBC tried to gag.
This is a special report on Real Revolution Radio X.
Welcome everybody here to The Missing Link. I've been recently introduced to someone who I find is quite brilliant in his research, the Dezert-Owl. I'm going to read a little brief introduction for everybody so you all get to know a little bit more about who he is. So, in the essence, the Dezert-Owl discusses the history of the world and how the unseen hand has been running it from the beginning of time. Who they are and how they have founded all of the first great civilizations that are found all around the world. About who the giants really were and the ancient Aryan caste and slave systems, the priesthoods, the anti-gravity, V-Manis, the control of all forms of communication, commerce, religion, mass media, pseudo-politics, etc. It is the grand deception that is used to control all of mankind and all instituted through the four main religions of the world, in particular used as their grand cover. The cyber code has been revealed to me because I have become adept within the study of the ancient alphabet, communication, symbolism, religion, custom, law, cosmology, and mythology, not to mention the fallacy of today's political science and pseudoscience in particular. Dezert-Owl can also define the true nature of their warfare, their shell game of bringing one civilization up for the temporary use and then taking it down for the next 500 years generational cycle as symbolized by the classic phoenix. Dezert-Owl discusses the ultimate in mind control and ancient art of the financial control, the secret societies and their blood occult rituals, and how they wage all wars throughout all time. Through the nations that they have created, which are all imagination, plantations, and mere corporations. They have taken blood oaths to surrender their self-will and mind to their blind goddess who has demanded our blood from the very beginning of time. They communicate to their minions through the movies, TV, and using us for our ingenuity, for our collective, constructive labor, for experimentation, and in the end, they intend to kill us all. They have given us full notice of what they are doing and what they fully intend to do, while all the general population, the sheeple, they merely go there to be entertained. The New World Order is the old world order from the beginning of time. There is a major cosmic natural disaster that is about to happen on Earth, and they know it because they have engineered all of it while they are cleverly leaving us in the dark. Hence the reason that they have built hundreds of underground bases all around the world, while they are leaving all of the people to remain unprepared, uninformed, and above ground, so that when it all comes, the mere 5% who will survive above ground will die from the weaknesses and disease that have been generated from all of the poisons they have been feeding us, from the chemical aerosol spraying of our sky, to fluoride in the water, to tainted injections, to fake food, etc., etc. They have enslaved us all at birth by the clever means of deception, because we, most all, are their chattel property, and because they merely wanted to harness our labor, what they always needed, which is what backs most of the world's currency through the birth certificate. But they are all through with us now, as it is written in stone, as it can be seen written in the Georgia Guidestones. We are a virus upon the earth. To know the truth is to be empowered and to be prepared. We may not be able to stop what has done and what is about to happen, but the innocent and the decent people of the earth deserve to know. So welcome everybody. I hear we got a lot of people already in here, and welcome to the Missing Link, which is love inspiring new knowledge. Dezert-Owl, how are you today, Desert? Oh, hang on. How are you today, Desert?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Testing. Okay, good. Yeah, I honored to be on the Missing Link today. I feel very much like a missing link, and my ability to get out a message that is constantly quashed by the the mainstream narrative. The truth, as the axiom goes, is stranger than fiction.
And so please fill us in for anybody who doesn't know who you are, and how just let us know your journey until we got to this point where you're here on the Missing Link.
Right. Well, I'm gonna just segue from what we just talked about. Because as a political activist, I started 30 years ago. Had two organizations, and I'll mention them real quick. But I just want to say that in my area of targeting, I've had near a dozen attempts on my life, 6 alone with automobiles. The first time I ended up in a ditch, and because I serve a great Heavenly Father, I was able to walk home. I rolled over the entire automobile, and not a bone was broken in me. But after that, I watched where I was going, and all the other attempts were failed because I'm very cautious about where I go, and I look behind me, And so the threat is real. But as far as my background, I was I'm a spiritual guy. I was never interested in politics or any of those things. And so I was studying my scriptures, ancient history, symbolism, word etymology, all of those things. And then I got stuck in an 18-wheeler to, bring food home for the family. And then in a year of listening to talk radio, I heard people saying the same things over and over. When you hear people repeating things, there's got to be some truth to it. So I did my own investigation. Things like there is no law that says you have to have a driver's license, or there's no law that says you have to have a social security number, all of these things. And so I investigated and found out, these things are true. And so in my own research, being a researcher, then I realized after a year we were in trouble. I wrote a thesis, a 6-page thesis on what I thought we were being run by, which I thought at the time thought it was an oligarchy, the wealthy. I know better now. It's more than that. But I had working for my publishing company at the time a retired intelligence officer who turned out to be the during the Bay of Pigs invasion with Cuba, was a Navy photojournalist. Then he went into the Defense Intelligence Agency, and then was also voice on mission control for 2 years, and also knew the Apollo 5 astronauts who were burned alive in their tin can program because they wanted to go public about the fraudulent nature of NASA. By the way, NASA means deception, in Hebrew. So I had what the Heavenly Father has always done with me is put me at the right place at the right time to see something, or to know something. I would, just like he put me under a squadron of 30 UFOs on the evening of the spring equinox, Easter, coming south of Memphis, the city of the pyramid, going towards Jackson, Mississippi in my 18-wheeler, and then ended up under a squadron of about 30 UFOs. So you always wonder what it would be like just to witness a UFO. Try being under a squadron of them and see how it feels. And so
did you say beam me up, Scotty?
I said, beam me out of here. I'm going back to Texas. I figured it was game over. What I thought I was witnessing must have been happening in every city of the planet. I thought this was the real Orson Welles War of the Worlds, but everything is a shell game, and it's a test pilot program, and they're coming out. Now we know they're out big time with these so-called UFOs, but it's really all Earth-based, all man-made. It's the greatest show on Earth, and it's the grand deception. So I had 2 organizations. When I realized we were in trouble and got fully informed, then I formed my first organization, Council for the National Interest, the antithesis of the Council on Foreign Relations, which runs all public policy for the banking interests and the Vatican. And then after that, after I had a divorce, then this will do that. This type of stuff will do that to a family. Then I had my second organization, United Truckers Defending the Constitution. That's when I went over the road, no longer having a family, and did a survey, interviewed people all coast to coast, took out people that ran for president, and interviewed them. And so it was quite an experience and a wake up. But I met a lot of great people that were trying to do the right thing. And in spite of all of these great people, nothing has changed. It's gone from bad to worse. And it's because from the beginning, it has been orchestrated. And that's part of the story, because the people think that the U.S., just like Canada, U.S. is a little different by its nature. They think that it's their country, but it's not their country. It never was. It was. That's why they call it the Great Experiment, because they're experimenting with our minds, with their strategies on how to manipulate our minds and to control the herd. Okay, so I think that probably covered, the one thing that was unique about me in my ability to interpret what was going on is the fact that I was a historian, studying ancient history, studying symbolism, word etymology, because what I realized when I got involved in the political arena was that they were speaking in an ancient form of communication with symbolism and words. And so I picked up on that. And so I was able to see who these people were from a broader perspective than most average people. As my first card here, I took some notes before the program, just to follow a certain direction. But people are not journalists. And so because people are not journalists, they my screen went black and I'm trying to figure out what happened here. Because people are not, okay, it's back on. But people are not journalists, so they don't have the critical skills for being able to explore all the aspects, know how to find information. And just like a good one, with Alex Jones, he's really a former comedian, Bill Hicks, and then he's acknowledged his family are CIA and and Jewish Mossad and all that, and still people don't get it. They still follow a guy that is totally keeping us under the spell. They have always got the best information. That's classic for these type of people. But yet they are steering the narrative. And they always want you to call your congressman. They always want to talk about Washington like it's legitimate when it's been nothing other than a shell game from the beginning, and especially after 33 with the banking interest that took over officially through the bankruptcy of the United States Corporation.
What year was the 30 UFOs?
That was 1997. That was I just finished doing my Sunday radio program called America's Driving Force in a truck stop, 76 truck stop in Jackson, Tennessee. And then I got back in my truck to go make my early the next day delivery. Got on the loop in Memphis, in the western part of Kentucky or Tennessee. Got on the South Loop and then started heading south to Jackson, Mississippi. And then it started getting dark, and I saw those lights in the background in the horizon coming towards me. I'm going south; they're going northeast, and and then all of a sudden, next thing I'm under it when it was pitch black. By the time it got pitch black, I was under them, and I pulled them over, my truck over to do a survey. I rolled down my window. There was one hovering. They had a chain link of them hovering along the freeway like sentries, while the mass were moving over in mass. And so the one hovering right across on the other side of the interstate, right above the trees, was hypnotic, because there's a light flashing on top, a green, red, yellow light. But all of a sudden I realized, and it lit up the trees just like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, lit up the trees with a bright white heliarc light. But then all of a sudden I click and I said, wait a minute, that thing is hovering there. And it's not making a sound, no sound, So that's how close I got to one of them. Then one of them went off of its pattern and started coming towards my truck. And I thought, well, they're either going to put, some kind of chemical in the air or hit me with the ray gun. So I got in gear and I headed south, and next thing I know, they're gone. While they were coming, I tried to talk to other truckers and they jammed the radios. All our two-way radios were jammed, so nobody could talk to each other. Okay, that's the story in short, okay?
So
I did find out where they were based underground the next day in Jackson, Mississippi. My intelligence officer said, well, if they're coming north, you're going south. Maybe they were based down there. Asked some people, and the very first guys I talked to doing a break, a couple of guys, taking a break near the loading dock, I said, hey, any of you guys seen anything funny flying around in the sky lately? And one guy goes, yeah, I have. I said, what'd you see? They said they got these things looking like UFOs. They come out, and I said, you know where they come from? He said, yeah, they come from the underground base near the airport. These guys were black. They fly them. And I say, how did they get away with it? What did they say it is? And they say it's part of the Drug Enforcement Agency. So I said, oh, well, I'm going to do an interview later tonight on a radio program. Can you draw me a picture of what you see? Compare it with mine? And he said, sure. We went into the break room. He drew a picture. I drew one. He did a better job than I did. Okay? So that's the story in short right there.
Wow. So at any point did you want to get out of your truck and engage them, or was it kind of a nerve-wracking?
Well, no, I see, because I was in tune to their, because I hung out with this, retired voice and mission control, defense intelligence agent who was now retired and, just doing typesetting, and he was an author, and that's why I was impressed with him, because he did writing, about a lot of esoteric stuff. And so that's why I knew they were going to use, like Warner von Braun said on his deathbed, the head of NASA, he gave a confession to his secretary that in the end, their last wild card will be the phony UFO invasion. So when I saw it, I just knew it was the underground boys now coming out, and I just thought this was it. So so there was no fear. My only thought was, do I have enough fuel to get back to Texas, because I don't want to be stuck out here in no man's land, I want to go home.
Totally. So can you tell us a little bit about, your education?
Well, I was smart enough to know I wasn't learning anything in school, so I dropped out in 10th grade and got on with learning. Education, ED, means to remove. Like an editor, he removes. So education doesn't mean learning. It means what they didn't tell you. It's enlightenment that we want. So I was, being manipulated in school. I could feel it. My teachers didn't care about me, and I didn't want to memorize all the parts of an automobile just to know how to get in and drive it. So like, I'm in reference to now English and literary, because I hated English. I hated literary. How did I become a translator and an etymologist when I hated English? Because the way they were teaching us was fraudulent. It's all fraudulent, everything. They don't teach you about the nature of money nor the nature of law. And so it was in the days of the hippies in 1970s, mid 1970s. So I got I left New Jersey, never looked back, stuck out my thumb and traveled the country and saw how beautiful and big it was. And then ended up in Colorado, living on a ranch and learning how to, ride horses and do that type of stuff on a ranch. And then I lived in cabins, and then from there I went to California for several years and got into construction and became a home builder. And I consider that a metaphor for the building of the work I do today, the construction of words and those things, because I know that my construction days were short-lived in comparison to the other, things of being a political activist, and which was, for the last 30 years now. Although I'm not a political activist anymore, I'm back to being a spiritual pacifist, because I know the truth. That Albert Pike wrote in his book Morals and Dogma that there would be 3 world wars in the next century, and turns out to be the next 2 centuries, the 1900s and the 2000s. But how they predicted it, how they wage it, how they finance it, how they make all the propaganda films about it. They run the show. And so it's all a stage. That's why they call war theater, And so we're in trouble in our world.
So you've got a lot of information to get out, and I was actually thinking of possibly talking to you about maybe doing a weekly or a monthly just to get this information out because of the way you're shadow banned. Well, we can talk about that later. We have been deceived in every single way. There's deception everywhere, deception on history, deception on, schooling, what's been going on. Do you think that this is a 6,000-year-old death cult like some people believe?
Well, it's a serpent cult would be the better way to describe it. And it's a serpent cult. In other words, just like we see they control everything Jesse, they control religion as well. They control the scriptures. This is part of my bigger interest. To talk about the political and the sensational stuff that they've done, the criminal racket. That's really not what I do. It's more of a political activism thing. But I know it's important to talk about the things that I've learned for other people to benefit from it. But my heart is within the ancient writings and our scriptures and serving the Heavenly Father in what we classically call the kingdom of heaven. But in spite of that, what has happened is in the control of everything, or as it says in Revelations, they have deceived the serpent cult has deceived the entire world. Well, that's quite a deception, right? That means everybody. And so only in an environment like that do certain people wake up. Even those people who think they have woken up have not woken up. They've come to another level of awareness. But the scheme is so fantastic. We're talking about an engineering program that has been going on not for decades, not for hundreds of years, but for several thousand years. Actually, since the Aryan race came on the scene. And I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get into that. When people wake up, what we see within these our community of people who wake up, one of them wakes up and the other one doesn't. And so it's very tragic because either the gal is left all alone, her husband doesn't care, doesn't get it, or vice versa. The wife wants security, wants to feel good, and can't handle the sensational narrative of what's going on. So a lot of families break up when only one wakes up.
We hear this over and over. I was just talking to, my friend Jack Talcott yesterday, and, he hasn't even talked to or seen his son in 3 years because of, his awakening to what has gone on. And, he found Jesus, and then he got shipped out of the Postal Service, and, he's been having, a really tough time ever since. So, yeah, it happens to a lot of people who don't wake up together with their family.
Yeah. About 25 years removed from Waco now or whatever. And how they're teaching it in the history books, I have no idea. But the people that were murdered got blamed for it. The victims got blamed for it. And so we need to set the record straight. And I can do that in short order here, so I'm good to go.
Perfect. That was David Koresh. They labeled them as religious extremists who had taken their own life, but I believe it was Bill Clinton ordered them to go in and take them out.
Well, Bill Clinton with Janet Reno, the cross-dressing attorney general at the time. Living in Texas, I had the opportunity one day to I think they were called the Golden Corral restaurants there in Texas, and I was there having lunch in my town, and it just happened that sitting right next to me was I can't remember now if he was a deputy sheriff or he was a retired investigator, or it may have been both, that type of thing. And so we started talking and find out, he knew the people at in Waco, and the sheriff. He told me about the sheriff, in particular, because he knew the sheriff. He worked for the sheriff apparently, and the sheriff used to go over there and have dinner with those people. Okay, that there was a totally open environment where there was no threat. There, the sheriff hung out with them. They loved each other, and so what happened, was a federal takeover of the jurisdiction within the state of Texas, and you can imagine how befuddled the sheriff must have been. He died a very miserable, unhappy life. As according to the investigator I was talking to, that because they couldn't figure out why are they attacking these people, so they took over. The federal agency took over, and when I said Fed, that means banking. Okay, that's not national United States. It is the nation of the United States no longer exists. It hasn't existed for a long time. Story for another day. But it was the federal banking system that came in, that runs the show in the bankruptcy of America, and took over with the BATF. BATF being an agent of the Federal Reserve banking system, just like the FBI, an agent, unregistered foreign agent of the Federal Reserve banking system. And so I just want to mention that because the people that knew the Branch Davidians knew them as decent, innocent, sincere, people, not crazy, willing, as young people are, right? Young people are idealists, and they might want to be hippies, right? Or they might want to, put tattoos all over their body. That people do things when they're young because that's what they do. They do all types of things, and they're not to be condemned for it. That's just, I wouldn't do it. That's not me type of thing, but they were demonized. They were demonized by the media. Who runs the media? Okay, the banking, right? Jewish banking runs the media. And so they demonized the Christians, even though it might not have been my tradition. They had a right to follow whatever rainbows they wanted to follow, And so, Sun Tzu, he says that if you want to absolutely win a battle, you have to know yourself and you have to know your enemy. Okay? And if you only want 50% chance of winning a battle, you either have to know yourself or you have to at least know your enemy. And if you want no chance of winning a battle, you've got to know nothing. See, that's the position most people are coming from today when they want to save the world and save America. They're coming from a position of not even knowing their enemy and how the game is played.
Just wanted to mention that the Desert Owl here has been very, very shadow banned. He's got 25 books on Amazon. If anybody does like books or, does want to support, the Desert Owl here, you can go to Amazon and what would they search for?
Well, if they put in my full name, as we see it on your program, Micah Hill, Desert Owl, if they put it in that way, all 27 books will come up, 4 dictionaries, and the rest are lost writings, translations of sacred scriptures, my proving out that they got us going down a rabbit hole when they wanted us studying Yiddish, Hebrew, or the Greek. Because what I'm presenting within these translations and the dictionaries is what came first. That which is first is superior, that which is first is original, and it's classically known as the Indo-Germanic mother tongue, also known as the original Aramaic. And so I reveal the hidden nature of our modern words where they got us speaking Pig Latin and show how important it is to go back to original thought, because then all of a sudden you start getting pictures, and it's far deeper and far more profound than anything anybody could imagine, what they have not yet been exposed to. So it's right there.
So when I'm talking to someone and someone is, saying words to me and I start seeing pictures in my mind, is that, kind of what, what's happening there when I see a lot? I can see things when people are describing things or telling me a story. I can actually see what they're saying.
Right. Well, we all have different ability to envision things. We're all of a different makeup. But to give you an example of how the words are hiding the original thought, it's the evidence of the manipulation. And because what we're speaking is still the ancient tongue, but in a corrupted form, the pieces are still right in front of us, but we can't read them. Just like the word pine tree really means pin tree. Right, because the pine tree has these sharp little pins, like the spruce, or I can't remember all the different ones specifically, but there's pin trees, and they called now they're pine trees. But like the fir tree is really the fire tree. Why? Because when you go out in the woods and you want to survive and make a fire, the first thing you do is you get the softwood with the turpentine in it, and it starts the fire going, and then you get the heavier oak wood and put it on top of the fire. So fir tree is fire tree. That's what the ancients knew when they went all over the world. Get the fire tree first. And so it's the same with like tyranny. The word tyranny, you can hear it. It's the tear in your eye. Okay, the tear in your eye. It makes you want to cry to see what's going on in our world today, right? And that's tyranny. And so I'm trying to think of something. Treason. You see, the treason comes through the tree's sons. Who are the tree's sons? They are the ones who cut the trees and crafted the ships in order to conquer the world. The Phoenicians, the Celtic, and then our modern day Admiralty state that they gave us, where the ship comes into port. They call it a ship of state, right? And that's the tree's sons. That's the treason. You know, the word craft means treason in Middle English. Craft for Freemasonry, okay?
Tell lie vision.
Yeah, it's telling lies into your vision. People get thinking that it's like some secret going on out there, but there is no secret. Just like there is no conspiracy, it's about slave management. There is no secret because it's all an open secret, and they literally put it right in our face, as you know, with the movies and with their symbolism and with their occultic ways of doing things, their hand sign language, all of it. It's all in our face, and all we have to do is learn how to read. So it's all an open secret. Signs and symbols. This was by Confucius. The ancients knew. The ancients knew. And he said, signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor law. So we got to be able to read the signs and the symbolism. With that, and that goes then into knowing ancient history, and they cut us off from our past and our true history. So it's a big science. That's why most people will never figure it out. Another quote by Confucius off the top of my head, if I can paraphrase it, is dealing with words, that when they manipulate our words, that what happens is then we lose our true science, we lose our true religion, we lose the true elements that were our bedrock, were our foundation, and then as a result, the people are left standing in idleness and despair and confusion. And so to say things correctly and to know, and to be able to convey them through the words, because that's the beginning of everything. Without words, we can't build anything. We can't do anything without words. And so Confucius said that matters is not just important, it matters above everything else, that we communicate properly. So we're under the spell. And it's the spell of their spelling, okay? And so they have an old axiom, right? That he who wins the war controls the history. But how about he who wins the war controls the words, right? And that's really what's a major part of the problem, because they've got us speaking in pig, like I say, pig Latin. If you talk to a foreigner when they come to America and they have to learn English, they'll tell you it's got to be the hardest language to ever learn. And the reason is because it follows none of the laws of original diction, which is one letter, one sound, and I could go on, with that science. But basically, they've done the ultimate spell, put us under a spell, but it's not real, a real supernatural power. It's just the art of trickery. And so once we know the tricks and the name of the game, we can be set free from that. And that's what's beautiful. They don't care, the axiom I have right here on this screen, that they don't care what the answers are as long as you're asking the wrong questions. And so that's really what it comes down to. That's why they have to control the narrative with the television, with the movies, with all the information, who doesn't know that once a politician gets in office, everything he said before that was a lie. They kiss our babies and they kiss us off, right? So Ashkenazi, is the original word of this culture. They, in 1775, came up with a new word they fabricated called Jew, but that is not an original term. They actually got it in all of our scriptures. They've got it in all the books, taking it back thousands of years, when literally the word was created in 1775, and it's the same time they added the letter J into our alphabet. The J is a hook. Look at it, it's a fishing hook. They got us on the hook. Then all of a sudden we see the word similar, judicial, judiciary, jewelry, jury. You see, all of these words that they now control, and they control all of those elements at the same time, and so the ones who claim to be here's how they change out the scriptures. One little example: in Revelations, it says, there are those who claim to be Jews, but are not Jews. And that is a corruption. That's not what it originally said. It said, there are those who claim to be Israel who are not Israel. Now you know who we're talking about, right? Who claim to be Israel, but are not Israel. Why? Because Israel was dissolved. It was dissolved back in 724 BC. Israel ceased to exist. And those today calling themselves Israel are not Israel. Put two and two together, because they were the ones with the Israeli Mossad who took down the Twin Towers with the Bush cartel. Well, so the Jewish banking, these Ashkenazis, and that word Nazi is important because we see it on a culture that headed off World War II. So put two and two together. You know, they call them banking wars, right? And so the Rothschild family, it's said that they were originally called Bauer, but now I know it's a code. Okay, it was the Jesuits, the Jesuits that wrote Mein Kampf for Hitler, and so you can imagine, that the Jews, the banking Jews, would have wrote a book about hatred for Jews when they're the ones waging the wars, right? But they had to make themselves a scapegoat. But it's the greatest show on earth. And because they control movies and television, right, then they control the narrative, and we can never figure anything out. But it is possible to know. So what I learned about the word Bauer, because I know the code, is, number one, the B and the P are interchangeable, and it's Bauer is power. So the Rothschild family says that they were the Bauers, but it's a code for power, and also the vow of war. Now this connects directly with what we saw in 2001 on 9/11, because it was a war waged against the people. Forget the nation; it's against people, and it was an occult ritual. And so Bauer not only means power, but it means vow war, or the vow of war. And so in order for the Rothschild Bauer family to be in position that they are today, they had to agree to the vow of war, perpetual war against mankind, and that made them the beast system's Vatican agent, which you see in the Catholic Encyclopedia, that the Rothschild family is the protector and defender of the Vatican Trust. They're the ones who print money and control all commerce. There is no money. It's all funny, because they can create all they want. There's no end to it. What they really have harnessed and monetized our system with is our labor through the birth certificate. A story for another day. But anyway, just like Bauer, this Bauer family means power and the vow for war, perpetual war, or as Montesquieu said in France in the 1700s in his book The Spirit of Law, he said that all wars, he at least knew this part, all wars for the last 2,000 years, but it's really since the beginning of recorded history, all wars for the last 2,000 years have done nothing other than to serve as depopulation programs for one another's nations. Well, when you realize that all the royal families of Europe, whether they're Russian or German or French or Spanish or Portuguese or Dutch, you name it, they're all interrelated. They're all family. And they got us all thinking that we're enemies fighting each other, right? We're the ones who go to the front line and spill our blood. Well, they're just depopulating their program, So it's amazing when you know what's really going on, how this shell game works. So real money is gold. And they took the gold away in 1933 officially. They outlawed gold. It was a fraud because gold is private property. You can't outlaw people owning private property. But they said anybody, the banks, when they took over in the final bankruptcy in 33, or the official big one, then they said that if you don't turn in your gold, you go to prison for 20 years. So the stupid people turned in their gold, but the smart ones, they kept it, So that's what happened. They got all the gold. That's why on the back of the dollar bill, you want to talk about, again, the words, in God we trust. It's really a code. Add the royal secret vowel that they took a vow to, the L, which is a symbol of an obelisk. The L, also a symbol of man. And it's not in God we trust, it's in gold. In gold we trust. It's the secret vowel, the letter L. So the definition for buried alive, which is, let me grab a book here. We have a definition out of Black's Law, first edition. Okay, and so the Black's Law Dictionary comes out of the City of London, so it's a Jewish banking book, and so just like the King James Version came out of the City of London, Jewish banking, so and they gave it to King James, who was the founder of International Freemasonry, and so that's when they put the word Lucifer in there, by the way, and Lucifer means the true cipher. So when I'm revealing these codes, realize that Lucifer means true cipher. That's all it is. It's an idea. It's like a corporation. It took a life of its own, and it won't die because they won't die to their cause. So they keep this alive. But the word Lucifer was never in our scriptures. So when we look up in the first edition of Black's Law, Black Law for Black Law, right? What part of black don't we get? When you look under burying alive or buried alive, it says in English law, the ancient punishments of sodomites and those who contracted or contacted with the Jews. Okay? So didn't the people at 9/11 get buried alive? I think so. And they buried us all alive because they made us the walking dead, because they killed us with the birth certificate legally through Roman civil law, because a birth certificate is a Roman slave document. And when a slave baby was born in Rome, they impressed their feet upon a certificate. Before its feet ever touched the ground, it was made a slave forever. And that's what they did to most all of us here. And they even cut our foreskins off. If we're males, they even committed an occult ritual on us and circumcised us without our family's permission. An occult ritual. How do you like that? I didn't give them permission to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's mutilation.
Sure, and then there's this supposed argument. Well, it's done for health reasons. No, as Yeshua has clearly said, if it were required for health reasons, it never would have been there in the first place. So that's just a ruse. So what the bankers did in '33, when they were going to now come out of the box, with the New Deal, Roosevelt brought the New Deal. It's all the New Deal, the better deal. Wait a minute, isn't it just like the old deal? It's another deal, just like the other deal. Well, they're calling it the New Deal anyway. And the good times are going to roll. We had the Depression. The bankers choked us with the 20s and the Depression. People jumping out of windows, and it's another shell game. But now we're going to take over through the bankruptcy in 1933, and they created the War and Emergency Powers Act. And Dr. Eugene Schroeder of the agricultural movement discovered this. And basically what it is, they declared us the enemy. And so what part of being declared the enemy then don't we get? And this is why I bring it on today, as a foundational point within this interview, because these are the things that were discovered by our great researchers, and now nobody talks about them anymore. What part of being the enemy don't we get when they want to commit genocide on our planet, right? So we're the enemy. Why are we the enemy? Because if everybody knew the truth, they'd be in trouble, right? They'd be in trouble. And so red, white, and blue, we get excited here in America about the red, white, and blue, get sentimental and jerk a tear. But wait a minute, the French flag is red, white, and blue. The British flag is red, white, and blue. The Russian flag is red, white, and blue. And I think our flag is red, white, and black and blue, So what part of red, white, and blue don't we get? Maybe there's something behind the symbolism, as Confucius said, And so the red stands for Jewish communism. It's the blood that they spilled by their perpetual war, their vow to war on mankind perpetually. The white is for the stars because they consider them stars, and that's what we see in the Khazarian media in Hollywood, right? They got the walking stars of fame. Of an actor, you become a star, or if you're a good musician, you become a star, right? So they're all talking about becoming a star, and so the blue is for the Aryanism, because the Ashkenazi are Khazarian. Khazarian means the Aryans with the keys. That's what they're doing, right? They're holding the keys to everything, just like the Vatican. Behind them, you see the cross keys, right? It's about the keys of knowledge, the keys that unlock everything for us, what they hid from us when they wanted to educate us by taking away the things that would be most important to know about, controlling it. Have to control education, or what should have been enlightenment. So now with the bankruptcy, we see that the judge, wearing a black robe, he's in a religious ritual. He is sitting on the bench, and bench is Latin for bank. So now we see that the judge in the military judicial system in America, as well would be in Canada and virtually all the world, he's sitting on the bank for the bankers. And it's all about money, because when they get you in prison, they know you're innocent. They're going to put you in prison anyway, because they get the birth certificate on Wall Street, and you're now making money for the bank. Okay, it's the greatest shell game on earth. We're being traded as commodities on an international market based on our labor. And so we hear people talking about and realize that this is all preliminary, to talking about what I'm about to talk about next, which is coming up right now in about a minute. That we have to know the enemy. That's what I said, what Sun Tzu said. We have to know the nature of the enemy and how they operate, because people they know there's a problem, but they don't know who's doing it, what's going on here, and they're all confused. And it's real simple. It's who controls media, who controls the money, who controls the entertainment, who controls the music, who controls the internet. Bill Gates' father owns one of the 12 branches of the Federal Reserve Bank in the northwest of the U.S. Bill Gates, his father, not having just the Federal Reserve Bank, but also in control of Planned Parenthood. Get the picture? And then we got Bill Gates, just another front, right? Controlling the internet, but he wasn't smart enough to build that internet. He's just a front man. Let's see it for what it is, for what he's doing right now by being the front man, right?
50 grand his dad paid for Microsoft.
Okay, yeah, right. And with an illusion. He bought it with an illusion, of course, right?
Yeah.
As well, paid illusion.
The fake $50,000 money.
Yeah. So people are confused. They're saying, well, we're not a nation, we're a federation. They get confused with these terms. But look at who the federation is. It's the Federal Reserve Bank. And so it's a world federation. We had a national government, at least an illusion of one, but the federation is the world. And so Fed is the first part of it is Fae, and Fae is their woman. Fae is their goddess. We also know her as Columbia. That's why it was called the District of Columbia, because Columbia is looking pretty good, right? She's looking good on Columbia Records and Columbia Pictures, holding the torch of the ancient Aryan race. You see, Deutsch is originally Teutsch, and because it's not German. German means Kazar. But Deutsch is really a cover for the word Teutsch, which is the word torch, and that's why we see the runner in the Olympics always running with the torch, passing it on, because it's symbolic of them being an ancient cult, serpent cult, passing the torch on to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. So it's a world federation. It's a one world order. Nothing new about it. It has always existed since the Aryan race came on the scene. It goes back to that story of the fallen watchers. They convinced everybody it was some invisible creature with wings on their back, when it was an Aryan race that mated with the redhead spotted Celtic race, the fallen ones with the stain of blood, the children of Cain. Story for another day, but that's where it begins, because they set up the priesthoods. The Aryan class did, called Brahmin today. Brahmin is a corruption of the word sovereign. Makes sense, because they are the sovereigns on the earth. Running the show, because the Father gave us free will. People are confused. They think, well, God wouldn't, whatever they mean by the word God, wouldn't let them get away with this. Well, He gave man free will. We can make a choice, and so we can also make the choice to support beast or not to support the beast. Because once a beast, always a beast, and you think you're going to fix the beast, you got another thing coming, because you really don't know how big the beast really is. It's a Leviathan. And it eats everything in front of it. So we have World Federation. So Soviet Union, remember, it dissolved. Boy, isn't that interesting how that happened with Gorbachev at the time. But Soviet means world. So we don't ever get the picture, but Soviet Union means a world union. So just like United States, remember, it's a double-headed eagle, right? The East and the West. So United States we think it means the 50 states, but it doesn't. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for the United States of the world. United how? Against us, against the people. United nations, right? Imaginations. That's all it is. It's plantations. It's the cattle on free-range chickens. That's all we are. So what they ultimately have done in this grandiose scheme, when there is no money and it's all based on illusion, I could take you back to the story of the Titanic. I used to interview Bill Hughes, and who wrote the book The Secret Terrorists, and he tells the story how they built the Titanic to sink it. They gave free passes to all of the wealthy of America who would be in opposition to a communist Jewish centralized bank, and they got free tickets to ride back to America, on the unsinkable ship, and so many of the wealthy of America got on that ship, and they went down with it because they had to get rid of these wealthy that would have been in opposition to a centralized bank, and so they were done with them. That was then the Federal Reserve Act was written about a year later at Jekyll Island, and then by 1933 the thing is full blown in our face. And so but not only did they build a Titanic, the biggest ship ever written, ever built at the time, but they also built the Twin Towers, both to take them down. You see, so that's how I want people to compare apples and oranges, because they did it before and they did it again. And so I think with part two, I want to take a spell here, okay? And because I know how to pace myself, and so we're going to share another musical round with you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back with part two, and so you're not going to want to go anywhere. Just you got time to call a friend right now, and I'll be right back with more of what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here, and that's of course thank you to Jesse on The Missing Link.
Thanks, brother.
Way to go, Jesse. Be right back.
It's the sound of music. Listen to the sound.
I don't have it. 'Cause I never got it. 'Cause I don't want it. 'Cause I don't trust you. Yet you still insist I need a proof of vaccination to exist. And so the lies persist, but some of us can tell, and you bet we will resist. I hope you know it's plain to see the pseudoscience you misuse on the TV, and all the power you abuse that keep the people confused and afraid. How is this still going on? This fight's been going for way too long. If you ain't blind, you can see that this is wrong, and I won't comply. Not me, no way. I may be wrong, and after all, I'm just a singer. But I'm not afraid to use my brain and middle finger. So go ahead and do your thing, but I'm not taking anything. These vaccine passports are a crime, and so I sing. Hell no. Am I gonna get it? Hell no. HELLNO. Do I trust the government? Hell no. Do I comply? Hell no. HELLNO.
Well, let me tell you, matey, if you tune to a certain station called the British Bucket Company, you can get all you want, because they've been dying for 18 years.
Okay, Welcome back.
I just wanted to ask about, the Bible, the etymology of the word, where you believe it was originated, how it's kind of changed over time, because some believe it's BS, some believe it's, the word of God, some people believe that, it's already happened, that Revelations was, like the preterist version, that it's done in history. So what's your thoughts on the Bible?
Well, the word, I thought you were asking me about the word itself. So I'll just point out that because Bible does not mean book, it is a code. And so Bible, you can see the first part is the word. It's actually several words in different ways of reading it. But bib el, so we see it's a bib, and we know with the baby gets a bib or covering. And so it's the bib el, and the bib el, the L is an abbreviation for the enlightened ones. So the Bible, the Bibel, is the covering for the enlightened ones. And what does that give an example, Desert? Okay, so the question was asked one day. Well, who are the Illuminatis? Who are they, and how do we see them? Are they politicians? Are they judges? Or are they football players? Or who are they? And the answer was no, none of those. The Illuminati are the Schulers, the Pat Robertsons, all of they hide behind religion, as they have from the beginning of time, the priesthood. And so that's why the narrative, that we have in our scriptures has been corrupted, because they made it their code book with the Jewish banking, King James, Scottish Rite, founder of Freemasonry, Vatican agent, because Freemasons are Vatican agents, even though he made himself out to be a Protestant. Not true. It was all a shell game. And the guy that wanted to blow up, the Parliament and all that, he was a patsy. What don't we know about patsies? They're a dime a dozen, right? They set him up. It's the ever flipping coin. You never know which way it's going to land. So the word correct. So El Bib, there's different ways of reading it. Off the top of my head, I got to look at it, so I won't go there. But to answer your question, first of all, the word for Bible should be shulfar. Shulfar is the same word for ram's horn, for scribe. It means knowledge from afar. That's what it means, shulfar, knowledge from afar. And but as far as the book, it's a remnant of what we had. We had a library in Caesarea, Syria, and Eusebius was the last librarian. Then he was ordered by Constantine, the great terrorist, to bring the library over there to Turkey and Constantinople, and so he did. And so we were robbed of a library. What we have left in our 27 teeny-weeny little books is a remnant. Who wrote the Bible, the translation of the Bible? I think it was James Moffat, 1922, thereabouts, in a speech, said, of all the religions of the world, of all that have, literature, of all the religions of the world, the people who follow Christianity, or what they call the Bible, but specifically the New Testament, have for them what is ultimately the smallest collection of writings for any religious tradition. And how can that be? When Yeshua is the one who made the universe, right? It's his story. And he comes to the center of the earth, the navel of the earth, called Yeruah Shalom, Jerusalem. And it's about his creation. And what he does is presents the greatest philosophy for life and truth and meaning that has ever been. And yet it becomes the smallest story, the smallest collection. And that's the evidence of that it's all being controlled. You see, that's what my ministry has been about for over 40 years now. I've been studying for 50 since age 14, ancient history, and so people, they cannot process. You see, they're convinced because God is so powerful, God is so strong. Whenever that word God means to them, because I don't use it, I go back to the original, what they stole from us, the great the Yavel Hey, who is the great Zul of Hain. Now that's a mouthful, and it has meaning. That's what we can talk about someday in the future. But so our scriptures are under the control of the so-called enlightened ones. They're the Gnostics. They use the Gnostic term to beat up the authors of the Nag Hammadi library. They never call themselves Gnostic, and they're not. And it's not a bad word. Gnostic means knowledge. Catholics are agnostic. That means they're against knowledge. So everything's confusion. Nobody can make sense out of anything because confusion is their game. Jesse, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so Waco happens in 1993. And I was now a political activist. I had my first organization, and I'm doing research, meeting the people, met people from, the Branch Davidians and all that, and researchers and investigative journalists and all that, and I was, making connections. And so the day that that they decided to take them down was April 19th. So look at the number, right? 911, April 19th. And April 19th, 1993, when they Delta Force took tanks and they started poking holes in the building of, they called it a compound, but it was actually a home and a church, if we can use that word. That's another occultic word, but we can use it. A home and a church of men, women, and children, 100 of them. And they took military tanks against posse comitatus, which meant that no U.S. military could ever be used against U.S. civilians. They lied again, and then what they were doing was spraying gas with the tanks, with the aerosol injection nozzle into the building, so that it would become highly toxic and flammable. And at the same time, a gentleman who created a unique technology called flare his technology was being utilized in an airplane at 10,000 feet, filming everything that was going on with the tanks. And what the military did, they set up 5 machine gun nests, totally surrounding the Branch Davidian home and church. And so when the tank was poking in the holes and spraying the gas, people were trying to run out of the doors to escape. And so the Delta Force, notice the Delta Force like the Delta variant, right? Delta. It's another thing to talk about one day. It's a code for darkness, right? D for death, destruction, right? So when you look down from 10,000 feet with the flare film, you can literally see the guys behind the tanks with the machine guns, and you can see the fire coming out of the machine guns, strafing, and literally out of every back door that was available, because they crushed the front door, so they couldn't come out where the TV cameras were. They had to go out the back, and every door that they tried to exit from, they were murdered at the door with machine guns, and the rest of them that didn't go out because of that burned alive. One guy was able to crawl out the front, but that was about it. And so that's what they did on April 19th, the occult high day, because the 19th is the occult high day for these people. One of them. June 24th is another one. Halloween is another one. Let's not forget the Saturnalia at the end of the year, what we call Christmas, when they've murdered more people throughout history than any other period of time. So the occult day, Hitler's birthday is on the 19th. He was a bastard child of the Rothschilds. Was it true? I don't know. But they say it's the 19th of April. April Fools, I guess, is part of that too, huh? And then Lexington and Concord, when the shot fired around the world, when the word Jew came into existence, 1775, when in Lexington, Concord, the shots were fired and by the redcoats against the Americans on the soil, and Crispus Attucks, a black patriot, was killed. The shot fired around the world April 19th, and the Warsaw Ghetto burned 1933. Warsaw Ghetto burned by Nazi Germany, which housed the Jews to make them look like the victims. A good ploy when the Jewish bankers are running everything, waging the war, then to make themselves look like the victims of the war. And then we could talk about Columbine. Columbine would have been on the 19th, but 19 was a Sunday, so Columbine, that mass shooting in the school in Colorado, Columbine, Colorado, was on the 20th. So what we see is this pattern of 19, 19, 19, which is just a spin on the 9/11. The Roman numeral for 9/11 is IXXI, and it's clearly evident in the Roman numeral that you've got the the apron, the Masonic apron, and the compass and the square and all that are right in the middle of that configuration. A lot of it is seen in Switzerland, which is the banking headquarters. And note that it's very interesting that Hitler never attacked Switzerland. Okay, that's a clue. So the tanks, while they're blowing into the building, they're saying, "This is not an assault. This is not an assault." Can you imagine a husband beating his wife, punching her face in, saying, "Honey, I'm only loving you"? That's basically what they were doing. They're saying, "This is not an assault. This is not an assault." They're lying, right? Who doesn't know that what they did to them was terrorism, was genocide? Right, on a religious group, a passive religious group that never shot, hurt, or threatened anyone, and used to have the sheriff come in for dinner, And so then on the same day of April 19th, get this. This is a footnote that I'm the only one who's ever mentioned that got it, because I'm paying attention. But on the same day, while the ashes of Waco are smoldering, while there's 100 dead bodies of men, women, and children. And by the way, Delta Force went into the building and put an explosive device on the main strategic bunker. They had a concrete bunker for storing food and stuff, and they put explosives right on the top. They snuck in while the tanks are blowing holes. They put charges right on top of that where the women and the children were, and that exploded at the same time when the fire went off. So they literally made sure that everyone died. Everyone died in that episode so that nobody could tell the same story about how they were victimized. They got to silence them. And so on the same day when the smoke of Waco, Texas is smoldering and men, women, and children were massacred, just like the Native Americans were massacred repeatedly by the United States government, what part of a massacre don't we get? If they would do it to them, why wouldn't they do it to us, right, when you think about it? How stupid we really are. We think it's God's country. Again, who is God? That's got to be the Pope, because they've been doing it all along. And we call it our country. Isn't it great? Red, white, and blue. Aren't we better than everybody else? Oh, this is God's country. Come on, Freedom, bro. Freedom. So on the same day, when we have 100 men, women, and children smoldering, bleeding to death, we have Bill Clinton in Washington, D.C. at a special memorial dedication. And in the crowd are all of the Jewish society. And what Bill Clinton is dedicating to this Jewish society is a Holocaust Museum memorial, where when Bill Clinton is giving his speech, says, this, talking about Holocaust, will never happen to you again. Want to talk about symbolism? That's quite a bit of symbolism.
Wow.
You see? If you can read the picture, it means you're going to never have to do a phony kill your own brothers and sisters to make yourself look like the victims, because now we're going to do it to the Christians. And that's what Albert Pike said in the book Morals and Dogma with their Third World Wars and the Last World War, that they would wage on us, they would kill all the Christians, and they'd use every means, including Islam, to do it. So, the truth is stranger than fiction, ladies and gentlemen. The first what do they call them back then? The gangsters, the mafia in America, right, in Chicago, back in the 1800s. Sir?
Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky.
Yeah, Al Capone and all of them. They in the 1800s, the very first mafia in America were called the Young Turks, and they're all were Jewish. They were Jewish. They get away with murder because they're protected by the organization. But at one point, when I guess we ought to call the head of the FBI, Hoover, right? We ought to call him Lucky Louie because he got to be a 40-year, in the FBI, 40 years working for the banksters, So at one point, Al Capone and the others become a liability, and so it makes them look good to arrest all of them, but they're buddies. They're all family. That's the Bauer family, the vow for war. And so isn't it interesting that today there's actually because, Turks, when you use the word Turks, that means Khazarian. That's talking about Eastern, Central Europe, right there at the crossroads from Western Europe into Eastern Asia. And and there's a place there called Nicomedia, right south east of Constantinople. And Nicomedia means the secret media. And why would they have been there? Because that was the ending point of the Silk Road. It was the crossroads from the east into the western part of the world, which is Europe. And so being a crossroads, it had to be an intelligentsia point of gathering information, of controlling factions, of spreading and gathering information worldwide, continent-wide. And so what do you see in the middle of Nicomedia? You get the word comedy. Well, isn't that what the Jewish media also bring us, the Khazars? They bring us the comedy, right? Cheers and Seinfeld, Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers. I like that one, for Karl Marx. So they're the ones who are entertaining us. They're making us laugh every Saturday on Saturday Night Live, and we don't know that the very people that are making us laugh are the ones who are now making us cry. They control it all.
What about the Young Turks, that Cenk Unger?
Right, that modern day so-called patriot reporting news agency, right?
Yeah, but it seems like it's another just democratic, front.
No, really, because when I first listened to them, they were putting down constitutional principles, even though the Constitution's a rag, But what I really picked up on real quick was their dialogue. And these Young Turks, because they're playing it off of the mafia that we had in the 1800s. That also, if you know what the Turks are, they are Khazars. And so you can tell by what they say that they are the enemy. They're trying to control another version of the narrative. If you take the last letter off of Constitution, you get Constitutio. The Constitutio is an imperial decree that comes down. So it's a Roman imperial decree. And as someone said it well, I can't remember who said it, but after the reorganization after the Civil War, when they took away the missing 13th Amendment, which was about titles of nobility, then no corporation, no attorney, no one that gets any foreign gift or emolument or pension of any sort from any foreign power could ever be an American, right? Because he's a foreign agent. Then they replace it with the 13th Amendment about slavery. The 14th Amendment came right after the Civil War, and it was the first one that had two subclauses. And then after that, each amendment continued to have a subclause saying, and any other further legislation that is required to meet these ends. Meaning it's an open door. And so what the Constitution, the bill, these additional items into the Bill of Rights became the second Constitution. I mean, come on, if the Bill of Rights were about rights, why would the 19th Amendment tell you that you have no longer the right to drink alcohol? Think about it, right? Mm-hmm. 19th Amendment, no longer you're allowed to drink, slave, so they could have another wave of the make money again, just like the Bush family. The father of George Bush Sr. He made his big fortune in smuggling alcohol from Canada into America through the Great Lakes, and all of that. So it's just a shell game. It's a bunch of criminals having a party on all of us, and we're the expendable fodder, And that's what the 3,000 people in the Twin Towers were. They were just fodder for their ritual, their occult ritual of a blood sacrifice to usher in a new age, all to serve who? An idea. That's all. It's an idea, because darkness, there's nothing there. It's an illusion. It's empty. And that's what they are. They're empty souls committing crimes against mankind because they are of the sensual world, the lower world, of let's have a party now, because they've convinced themselves that there is no retribution, that there is no life after death. That's what they've convinced themselves of. Because if they knew what was coming to them by the great Father of Light that made us all, they'd be shaking in their boots right now, because they have waged war against the Father of Light. They have waged war against his offspring, against his creation, and they are now even destroying the world with all their aerosol spraying and burning up the forest. They're taking down the world total. It's over. It will take, as Dane Wigington on his channel says, with geoengineeringwatch.org, that it will take 20 million years to bring back the ozone layer and the sea plankton that brings forth the oxygen, because they have burned down all the forests and they're almost done doing it. So that's a story for another day again. But I just wanted to add that footnote. I want people to see it's not about them coming to do this or that to you. The world is going down. They've destroyed it. They have to take everyone down in a genocide program because they can no longer grow food because of the UVC and UVB radiation coming through. After UVC, you get X-ray. It's over. The trees are dying. The plants are dying. And it's killing us. And so that's a story for another day, but it explains everything else that they're doing. It's the core issue. The world is being taken down by these psychopaths. They are committing suicide on everything, on all of us, because they're order takers. They're not the head. They are the tail. They are the puppy dogs. That's what dog means. It's God backwards as dog, because God is the Pope, and the dogs are the priests and the Freemasons that do the bidding of their master. They don't know what they're doing. It's only a good party, the right party, the left party, this party, that party. It's, as long as they can party, that's all they care about. Feel important. Give me a gun and a jackboot, and I'll feel pretty proud. That's all right. Forgive me for the rant, okay? I've been doing this too long.
No, it's this. We love the passion. There's nothing to be forgiven. Thanks for sharing that with us.
All right.
See your hands again. Now they're all clean hands. Washing them. Let me hear it if you've had the Pfizer vaccine.
For fuck's sake.
Let me hear it from Moderna. AstraZeneca. See it from the anti-vaxxers.
Oh, unbelievable.
This breath. Hands in the air. Yeah, you've got clean hands, I can see, it's good. We're spraying you with gel at the end.
9/11, we see a 9 and we see 2 1s. Isn't it interesting that the 2 1s look like the 2 columns, right? And so what does 9 mean? If we're talking about symbolism, we got a 9, and then we go to 11. Wait a minute, what happened to 10? And so we'll get there. What happened to 10? But 9 is a symbol. Notice that now 6, because we're talking symbolism, if you look at a 6, you can see that it's the symbol of the Fibonacci cycle, that it's opening up, unfolding. Can you see that, Jess? I'm just in your mind that 6 is the number of creation, and therefore its imagery is that of an unfolding snail or a circle that winds out like the Fibonacci code. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course, the Fibonacci sequence. That's kind of the flower of life.
Right, and so they also say that number 6 is the number of creation, right? It's the number of man. So 6, everything made in 6 periods, not 6 24-hour periods. It was longer, like 6 billion years. You see the story for another day. I can talk about that. But 6 is the number of creation. So if 6 is the number of creation, then what is 9? because it's a 6 turned upside down. 9 is the number for destruction, upside down, right? And so 10 is judgment, and 11 begins a new age. You got a new 1. 1, 1. It's a 10 and a 1. So it's a new beginning. That's the new age they ushered in. So let me go to my cards here, and we'll see where we can pick it up. Because the 2 columns then are the symbols of Freemasonry, which are, if you see the pictures of all their iconography and all their graphics, in their elegant, with ladders going up and a star and a moon up there on the columns. It's the Joachim and Boaz. Joachim and Boaz is for sun and moon. The 2 columns represent the powers that bring forth life on earth. The 2 powers are the 2 columns, sun and moon, that come together to create life on earth, okay? And so Farrar Fenton, who gave us the Farrar Fenton Bible in 1905, is the only one that got it right. Because Farrar Fenton, just so to qualify his view and his scholarship, is when he was around 1860, coming out of college, saw all of the political stuff going on, all the mistranslations, all the religious conflicts going on. He said, I decided that I was not going to read any English scriptures, and for the next 40 years, he read nothing but the Hebrew, the Greek, and the Aramaic. 40 years, he said, because I don't want to be influenced by doctrine, by politics, by mistake, by opinion, by any of those things. I'm going to read the most ancient documents, not the originals, because there are no originals, but the oldest copies that are extant and available. I'm going to read them myself. And so after 40 years, interesting, because it took me, over 40 years to get to where I'm at with, the translations I'm doing. And the same for him. 40 years later, he then creates the modern English version, the Farrar Fenton Bible, 1905. You can get a copy from artisanpublishers.com, my friends for 20 years. artisanpublishers.com. Tell them Desert sent you. And but that's where we get the Farrar Fenton Bible, because nobody else is making it available. Interesting, because Farrar Fenton, unlike our King James or any of our other modern translations, when we see Israel going through its routines, we hear about idols. Oh, they made idols. Idol this, idol that. But you know what is interesting? In Fenton, it's not about idols. It's about columns. They were told that they were never to make columns with the altar in the middle, and they passed their children over the fire on the altar through the 2 columns, right, to become part of the Molochian tradition, or the Philistines, or whoever, whatever occultic tradition it was, that was doing this stuff. But so Fenton is the only translation that translated it right, because all others are controlled by the beast system. But Fenton was a free thinker. He could see and read for himself, mastered it, became the all-time master. And so the idols in our scriptures are the columns. And so when they sacrifice people on the altar between the 2 columns, now you can get the picture that the 2 towers in 2001 on the occultic high day, then 9/11, that it was an occultic ritual and a blood sacrifice that had gone on for hundreds and thousands of years. The old game is the new game, the bigger game. The 2 columns.
Plus, they stole all the gold during.
Oh yeah, sure, and they had it in the right place. When what's interesting is that Building 7 was a fortress. It was built so that if New York City was attacked, all the political guys and all the police and all the secret agents would all go into the Building 7. How come they didn't do that? Twin towers, 2 columns. They are the columns of Baal, B-A-A-L. The 2 A's represent the 2 columns, because 1A is silent. It's a consonant. The first letter of the alphabet is a consonant. Then the vowel point in the ancient is what they never even wrote. It was breathed. As you read, you use the vowel. So there's a consonant which is the first letter of the alphabet, A, and then the vowel was spoken. It was the A sound. Otherwise, it was silent. So you got two A's. It's not Baal, it's Baal. So one is silent and one is speaking. And that's your duality. Because whatever is speaking in the world is the liar. And the one that's remaining silent behind the scene is the truth. And the Father of Light. He lets them do what they do. He lets them get away with what they get away with. Remember, the victims have a day of retribution. If they were good people and they did everything, to serve their fellow man and to do right, the divine wind is with them. They may have been sacrifices, but it doesn't mean their life is over. So that's the good news. That no matter what situation we're in, if we've been serving the Father of Light and serving our fellow man, the divine justice is in our favor. That's the good news. We can always know that. It's tragic to go through what we have to go through to leave this world, but the good news is our spirit is eternal, and we have to be good spirits, and learn the truth, because the truth is not a part of any lie. Can't be a little pregnant and not pregnant. The truth is not a part of any lie. And so that's what we have to do, is we have to find all the lies. When you get done looking at all the lies, throw them off the table. What you got left is the truth. And when we get into the forbidden history on another broadcast, we'll because it is in the words again, and the words are road signs to history. And so when you know the meaning of words, that really helps. So we'll go there one day. And so what we're really talking about here in this takedown of the columns. Remember, let's look at columns again. Because column, we see in the word Columbia, right? Columbia Pictures, Columbia Records, District of Columbia, British Columbia in Canada, Columbia, South America, right? And Columbine, where the shooting occurred, right? Another experiment, mind control experiment, column. So you see the word columns and you see the word by, Columbine. And so who discovered America? Oh, Columbus. You see, so you look at the patterns and the words and you realize something's going on here. Why is it, we got a Columbia in Canada, Columbia in America, Columbia in South America, right? And because it's a high sign to those who are in the occultic world. What we're dealing with is a Khazarian, Ashkenazi, Jewish, Masonic, Kabbalistic ritual that cares not for you and I. We are on our own, and all of our families are in grave danger by this culture, that is affecting us. Rockefeller, in his after they built, the Rockefellers were part instrumental funding, and involved with the building of the Twin Towers. Well, then in his cameo shot, and by the way, after I'm done with the presentation, I'm glad to stay on if people want to ask me questions for as long as I can hang in there, okay? I'll be glad to do that. So David Rockefeller, and I grew up in New Jersey, Central Jersey, so I used to go to New York all the time, with my dad or my mom, or I skipped school, and I go to New York, and, we're always Rockefeller Center, Rockefeller Square, there's your Masonic Square, the Rockettes, at Rockefeller Center, all of that. And it's amazing because I saw their power back then when I was growing up. Who's got all this money? How do they get it? Because there is no money, and it's an illusion, and they're agents. They're agents of the beast system. And so David Rockefeller, in his cameo painting, they made a painting, like a photo of Rockefeller, and his watch in the painting, in his dedication cameo shot to the 9/11 towers, his watch was on 9/11, showing you that, even 20 years before they built it, 20 years before they even broke ground, they had planned on doing it just like the Titanic, taking it down, to show you how powerful they really are. They use us, our energy resource, our labor, We work for them when we are the order takers, when we are the builders and the constructors of these things. We need a job, so we end up going to work for their, building their underground bases or building their rocket ships, They learn, it's interesting that they learn how to wage war on on the world. Where did they discuss how they're going to wage war? Geneva, Switzerland. Geneva, which means the generations of Eve, and they say that in the Hebrew it means hatred. So they hate the generations of Eve. They hate mankind. They had to follow the Babylonian Talmud. In order to follow such a wicked book, they had to be taught to hate, because the only way they could justify killing you is if they can justify hating you. Slave. They hate their slaves. They hate the cattle. They love their dog better than they love you, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a fact. It's a fact. You can see it when your eyes are open, finally. Especially when you're in the freedom movement, because you run into them. I ran into them left and right. I've had all kinds of games played on me by them, big time games. I'm going to take a sip, and I'm going to tell you about the day it all began.
I just had a question here about if you can repeat where to get your books, and also that Bible, the author, and how they can get a copy of that as well.
Right. The For Our Friends in Bible is from artisanpublishers.com. Artisanpublishers.com. And also George Lamsa from the Aramaic is there as well, 1930s. George Lamsa, the Peshitta, Peshitta. But Fenton, For Our Fenton, and both George Lamsa are there. Highly recommend them. They wouldn't let Lamsa publish his version here in America. They said, George, if you let us rewrite it, we'll publish it. So he figured, something is better than nothing. And so, yeah. But it's evidence. It'll create evidence of the more pure translations, ladies and gentlemen. Both of those books, okay? And if you go to Amazon or Lulu.com or Kobo.com, any one of those venues, search for A. Micah Hill Dezert-Owl, okay? A. Micah Hill Dezert-Owl, and that will bring you, all of the books should come up, okay? So check it out. And if anybody doesn't have, the money to buy these books, because we're in a bad situation today and it's getting worse, then if they contact us, I assume our contact information is on your material, on your postings. Jess, if they contact us through email, then we'll, if they can't make a donation, then we'll just give it to them on a PDF, okay? We can give to anybody on a PDF. They just need to contact us, all right?
Let there be light, Sharon says.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks very much for being a part of the Missing Link here. We are broadcasting. This is our 4th, 5th, 6th interview this week. Because of all of you, that are here, that are listening to this, it enables this Missing Link to, continue on, and knowing that people are getting something out of, what we're able to bring to you guys, kind of on a weekly basis.
Peace and love, brother.
Peace and love, and thanks. Excellent. Thank you both. Thanks so much. Thank you, Jesse and Desert. I didn't go to my garden. Someone was going to go to her garden, but this was too fascinating. Thank you both. Lots of hearts. And yeah, so this was awesome. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks again, Desert Owl. And we'll see you Monday, noon Eastern Standard Time with Karen Anderson. So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Here we go, friends.
Commercial time.
You're living in the past.
It's the sound of music. Listen to the sound.
It was terrible too.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. The government and the media are helping us. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Sorry, my friend, I cannot shake your hand. Social distancing's the new law of the land. Sorry, my friend, I wish that I could help you. And the grocery stores have run out of food. The government and the media are helping us. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it? Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it? Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it? Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it? Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it? Shut down the world so no one gets a cold. Can you dig it?
The first time I really got interested in wireless was walking along the beach at Liverpool.
Why are we waiting another week before we are asking the general public to put a mask on when they go into a shop?
Well, it is of course safe in shops, and we're.
COVID-19, especially the new variant, is spreading quickly across the country. This puts many people at risk of serious disease and is placing a lot of pressure on our NHS. Once more, we must all stay home. If it is essential to go out, remember, wash your hands, cover your face indoors, and keep your distance from others. Vaccines give clear hope for the future, but for now, we must all stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
It's so because where well that and in that and so he was and I'm and it because you know I am well and on that. It's because I'm human, and we're all human.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you.
And now for a word from our sponsor.
Now, at an individual level, the chance of anybody watching this dying of coronavirus are actually low. Over the whole epidemic, even if we have no vaccine, a high proportion of people will not get this. Of those who do get it, a significant proportion, the exact number is not yet clear, but it's certainly a significant proportion, have no symptoms at all. They get it without even realizing it. Of those who do get symptoms, the great majority, probably around 80%, depends on a number of factors we'll go on to, have a mild or moderate disease, which is sufficient that they would want to go to bed and feel unwell in some cases. Some cases they can actually just carry on doing their ordinary activity, although we ask them not to, but they don't actually need to go to the doctor or medical services, and they make a full recovery. A minority have to go to hospital, but most of these actually, the principal thing they need is oxygen, and the great majority of those will go on just to survive. And then a minority have very severe disease, may need ventilation, and of those, some sadly die with current treatment. But, important to stress, even in the most high-risk group, the majority of people who actually get this infection do not die.
Here we go, friends.
Commercial time.
You're living in the past. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty.
That completes the shipping bulletin. Wishing you a very peaceful night wherever you may be and a great weekend. Hope you can join us at some point. Good night.
And now for a word from our sponsor.